Sudan and India are linked by strong bonds of a common heritage and unique similarities. They are both countries of diversities and demographic wealth. These relations have a long history of contacts. In ancient times, the Nile Valley civilization and the Indus Valley civilization mutually interacted. The Nile and the Red Sea also provided well-known routes to Indian traders and visitors. Many aspects of culture and traditions in India and the Sudan have had a common source. Indian and Sudanese people also came closer to each other during the British colonial era, which dominated both of them. The two peoples shared a common national struggle, and the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi inspired the Sudanese national struggle when the Sudanese Graduate Congress led the struggle for the attainment of national independence that was achieved in 1956. Shortly before independence and in preparation for that historic event, Sukumar Sen, an Indian representing the Indian Election Commission, conducted the first election in the country. Prior to independence too, the very establishment of Sudan's Foreign Service in 1901 was based on a report by an Indian forester, Mr. Murrell. The establishment of Sudan Railways drew also from the Indian experience. Exchange of high-level delegations between the two countries have been taking place since long, including the visit to Sudan by the late Indian President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad in 1975, former Sudanese President Numeri's 1974 trip to India, and the visits of then Sudanese Foreign Minister Ali Osman Mohammad Taha to New Delhi in 1996, and by Dr. Mustafa Osman Ismail, the Minister of External Relations in 1997. India-Sudan relations have been symbiotic and characterized by people-to-people exchanges, trade, commerce and investments, and a shared outlook on several global issues within the framework of South-South cooperation. In the years ahead, India will seek to capitalize on the goodwill and continue to safeguard her economic engagement, among others, in the hydrocarbon sector and explore fresh avenues for investments in both Sudan and South Sudan based on mutual interest and reciprocity. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of State of the Economy. We are having a discussion on the forthcoming India-Africa Summit, where 54 heads of African states will be coming to Delhi end of the month, end of October, in a major outreach program by India. And as part of this, we are speaking to some countries and their representatives in India on how India and Africa can indeed build a bridge, an economic, political economy bridge for a lasting cooperation. So we have with us the High Commissioner of the Republic of Sudan, Dr. Hassan El-Talib. Welcome to our show, Mr. Hassan El-Talib.
Thank you.
Please tell us what is your view of this big outreach program that India is having with 54 African states. I believe China had a similar program a few years ago in 2011. So do you see similarities in the two exercise?
Well, thank you very much. I would like to extend my thanks and gratitude to the Rajya Sabha TV, and I follow this channel in my own time when I feed, and I think this is a very good way so the people can know what's going on, and this is a good thing to educate. Coming to the third edition, actually, this is the third time India made this, starting in 2008, 2011, and now this is the third part of it. I think this is a high time because India is now one of the emerging powers. As we know, India now in the BRICS, where Brazil, Russia, and China,
and South
Africa making this is the largest emerging powers economic community, which we believe it will take the role and extend the role of the IMF and the World Bank because it is attached to the development in the emerging economies.
Yeah.
Yes, China started this, and because the African continent is the major emerging countries where you have the highest degree of economic growth worldwide. As we know, after 2008 and the financial crisis, Europe is now struggling with their economy.
Indeed, the West is now depending on a lot on Africa to drive world growth. They keep talking about Africa as the next growth zone.
Exactly, and because Africa is still have this potential which should to be used, we believe India started this economic emergence from the 60s with the plans they made. India become an exporter of food. India become one of the major countries where you have medium industries that is appropriate to African use. Also, we believe the African deposit under the ground, oil, minerals, petroleum, rain, water, underground water, they need...
And agriculture. Abundant land.
Exactly, because
many countries are buying land in Africa, right?
Some of them, different rules.
At least China and Indian companies are buying
some
land.
Indian companies, some of them in partnership, some of them in just taking lease, like 90 years plus lease, and some of them, of course, according to the system there. But the major thing we need to concentrate in, Africa has a problem with food security. And that problem came because Africa has no capital or industrial technology to upgrade its productivity in agriculture. I think India has this experience.
India can actually partner with Africa in creating the next big food basket
exactly
in Africa, right?
The self-sufficiency, and after that to make an export for Africa so that they can industrialize. And without industrialization, we don't believe.
Do you think this will be a big topic of subject of discussion in this program, in this outreach summit between Indian officials and the African officials?
Exactly, the themes of the summit.
Food security is a big theme.
Food security, agriculture, technology, infrastructure, and of course information technology. We believe now. This is one area where India should take seriously. The banking system between India and Africa need to be boosted. And we believe India is the...
Are there enough Indian banks in Sudan?
Unfortunately, no. We are now talking with...
So you would want some Indian banks to...
Exactly. I actually, as ambassador, this is one of my major issues, and I use this program now...
I know that in other African states that I visited, we have Indian banks. Bank of Baroda is there in, I think, Kenya.
Canara and Baroda used to be for a long time there, but I think they need now to deploy more, and especially before you need to send the staff and building, and it may be costly. Now India has an edge in information technology. Why not use this information technology to ease the transfer of money? Now in Sudan, I have students here. I have almost about 8,000 students in Indian universities and high universities. I have a problem to transfer because of certain dubious laws made by other countries which may hamper it. But I think the Indian rupee, the Sudanese pound, the other currencies of the region could be used in this. Now electronically we need India to help Africa.
But do you think that there's a new transparency which is coming in the international financial system driven by G20, will that help in making this possible?
Of course.
A cleaner financial system?
Of course. The BRICS, because in South Africa is the representative of all African countries.
Exactly.
So I think the BRICS, India has the information technology, can make this easier, so I can use my mobile phone. Okay. If you need to know your customer, the mobile will give you that. Google.
This experiment has succeeded in Kenya, right?
Exactly.
Mobile banking, right?
Mobile.
So would you want mobile banking to be introduced in Sudan also?
Exactly. This will boost the interaction. It will make good identification for the customer.
So this is one area where Indian technology companies and banks can
work together.
Come to Sudan and
the capital markets.
Okay.
Now for our African and industry, for minerals, we need capital. India has Mumbai and the Chennai, Calcutta, all these capital cities where you have finance. Then they can link with the African capital finances.
Dr. Hassan, I just, sorry to interrupt, just wanted to ask you another question. Around the world, especially the developed world, land for agriculture is shrinking, right? In many, like you said, in Egypt also it is shrinking. So Africa is emerging as a possible potential food bowl for the rest of the world. And you're right, a lot of Indian and Chinese companies are buying land in Africa for agriculture purposes, right? So is this causing any resentment among the local population?
I don't think this should. I don't think should because Africa, as we know, has abundance of land, and the most area where we don't have complex population
when foreigners
density.
come and do agriculture.
Yes, but I think
does it become a political issue? Yeah.
The policies should be sustainable. The complaint came from corporate social responsibility.
Okay.
When a corporate comes and the rural area around that project is not feeling that there is no any responsibility regarding
they're not benefiting
exactly.
in a big way.
So I think we have to strengthen corporate social responsibility. But as we speak to Sudan, I know all the Indian companies, whether if we take BHL or NGC or other companies working, they have a very good responsible. Some of them built oil.
Yeah, like ONGC is working in the exploration.
Exactly,
right?
Network for water, clinics, and the people happy. The second thing for Sudan,
people are generally happy about it, right?
Yes, we believe.
But do you feel there's a sense I get when I visited some African countries that China and India are competing there, and some African countries are encouraging Chinese to come and build infrastructure. Chinese obviously have more money; they are spending much more than India. But India has much longer cultural and other links with Africa. So how is that playing out? Competition between India and China and Africa?
Well, I think the competition may be in heads of some people who may need to but
both can work together.
Essence,
India and China both can work together.
I think India and China can work together as pillars of development in the Asian continent.
And Africa could be a partner.
Exactly. We have in Europe, France and Germany. They used to fight and they become together after the Second World War, and now they are the largest. The European Union is based on this cooperation.
Sure.
So we believe
similar cooperation can happen.
Exactly.
Here.
We believe to have India, China, Japan all together work, and then for this Africa is their neighboring country.
Part of the South-South cooperation framework.
Exactly.
We'll take a small break here and come back to this discussion. Please don't go and stay with us. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are having a conversation with Ambassador Dr. Hassan El-Talib of the Republic of Sudan on the immense possibilities of India-Africa cooperation, which will be discussed in the forthcoming India-Africa Summit in New Delhi at the end of the month. So Dr. Talib, now I want to come back to a bit of politics. Now, Sudan emerged in recent years from its earlier political identity where there wasn't any democracy to a democratic state. Since elections, you had one election 2010, you're going to have another election. Similarly, many African countries have nearly 60-70% of them are transiting to a very democratic framework as political setup. Now, how is this changing behavior, social attitudes in Sudan?
Well, I think Sudan is a country which has much degree of political deliberation for the last 50 years, because Sudan got independence in 1956, January. But unfortunately, 1 year before that independence, we got a legacy of war with an armed rebel group in southern Sudan.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that has...
The South Sudan problem has existed for decades.
1955,
yeah.
And we believe the colonization, the British colonization, put this seed
Sure.
of conflict, because these people come as a part of military group working with the British
So after
government.
much violence, rebellion, they got an independent state in 2011, right?
Okay, 20. But before that, in 1970,
South Sudan is now an independent state.
now South Sudan, by the referendum of 2011, become independent state. But we agreed to two viable states in the Republic of the Sudan and Republic of South Sudan. Now we have agreements for residence, for travel, for ownership property. The Sudanese who are now coming to South Sudan after the unfortunate war.
So they can come, buy property,
they come
work
and live. And we never consider them as refugees. They come as our former
So
brothers.
in a way, you could say that they are one economic unit, if not political.
According to the agreement, we are looking, maybe there could be economic integration between the two, custom union. There could be some political will, the security and defense, we can agree, because the country used to be for centuries as one. But due to political realities, they agreed by referendum, and Sudan respect that referendum. And until today, we don't consider ourselves as enemies. Maybe we need to live as good neighbors to see what is good for the people. And the people of these two countries, the Sudan and South Sudan, can decide what their future to be. But we believe that war is not an option.
So now, with this issue having more or less been resolved, a new democratic Sudan and South Sudan, you're saying that can now focus on purely on development, economic development, and create partnerships with the rest of the world separately and together?
That is what is happening. Actually, one of the most important fruits of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement signed in 2005 and the referendum from 2005 to 2015, 10 years we have no war. And this is never happened before from our independence today. The second thing...
This should give a fillip to economic development. Right?
This gave for the stability of the political democratic system, because this is the first time in our history. We have election in 2010, April, and our system is 5-year term, and two terms. The second term came 2015 without any problem, and this is the first time in the time of, because before that we got military coup, we got uprising, and the government never complete mandate to deliver to another. So I think this is a
so now that is behind that situation is behind
exactly
Sudan now. Now
the second
thing,
you
can look forward
economy.
To
Sudan now is progressing. We are producing gold, and this is the first time we are almost 80 tons per year production of gold. This will
and you are a big agriculture exporter, is it?
Sudan is an agriculture exporter. We have cereals. We have gum arabic. We are the largest producer. 80% of international world product gum arabic is from Sudan. We have sesame seed, edible oils. We have peanuts, groundnuts. We have also cereals like sorghum grain. We are one of the largest producers of sorghum grain, millets, wheat, and livestock also. Sudan is the largest producer of sheep and camel to different countries, including Egypt, including Saudi Arabia, and Turkey and Libya. So we have a huge potential. Underground water, we are having the largest perennial irrigated scheme in the world with 3 million acres. This is
so in this context, since you have such good assets for agriculture, like you said, 3 million acres of perennially irrigated land. Now, in the India-Africa Summit, is this part of your agenda to invite Indian companies to come and participate in your agro-processing industry, in agriculture as well as agro-processing industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, we have cooperation now in the sugar industry. Now we have about 5-6 sugar factories. One of the largest is called Kinana Sugar Factory with a total production of 600,000 tons. And then we have other factories. India is part and parcel of that. Now in the pipeline we have Mashkur Sugar Factory is with line credit for India in the White Nile River. And this project is also with Indian expertise and technology. And we have many Indian engineers and experts working in Sudan. Many Indian companies invest in Sudan now, private companies. But the huge projects, we have power projects. As you know, ONGC is working for a long time in South Sudan and Sudan. The good thing about this, the pipeline is in Sudan. So the crude oil coming from South Sudan is coming through pipeline of Sudan. The processing is made in Sudan, refineries and transit and shipping, because South Sudan has...
and where all do you export the oil?
Export, yes, export. So South Sudan is net exporter. So they export and they...
Which countries?
ONGC, of course, then China, then Malaysia. These are the major. Now we have Canadian companies.
Does it also come to India, your oil?
Some of oil come to India. This is
ONGC, okay.
Property of ONGC.
Okay,
they
ONGC
send it.
explores it
exactly.
and comes back to
and
ONGC.
Shipping and different countries. So this is and we are looking forward so ONGC can go offshore.
Okay.
All this oil now is on the land. Okay. But we
you also have a lot of offshore assets.
Yes, we have 800 kilometers of coastline.
Tell me, how is this oil exploration business, since you're an economist, getting affected by this collapse in oil prices? Because this big 50% collapse in international oil prices has affected oil exporting countries. How has this affected Sudan?
I think for some countries, maybe our neighbor in South Sudan, because they started and they
will get much less for
98% right? of their cash crop as maybe that will be affected. But for us in Sudan, oil is only maybe less than 20% of our GDP. So ours. But of course, yes.
No, but for getting oil offshore exploration, for interest in that, for investments in that, do you think oil prices need to move up a little?
I think oil prices
to at least $70, $75.
Supply and demand. We know the problem with oil came.
The oil and gas prices are linked, right?
There are two problems. The first, shale gas in US. Yeah. The shale gas more than 10 million additional barrel, but now shale gas is not competing because the cost of producing a barrel of shale gas more than $60. Now 45, that is uneconomic, so many of them are going to stop. This stoppage will make the supply less, so automatically now we see the price.
So you're saying that oil prices will recover by and by?
May recover if it stays about 70, then maybe this could be stable because the shale gas can come and this could be a reasonable. The second area which impact negatively, when the revenues for the oil producing countries is less, then the demand also will be less.
Also commodities, other commodities prices have gone down.
Less.
Yeah,
and like this will not benefit the emerging
minerals,
and commodities.
Even soft commodities.
Exactly.
Agriculture commodity prices have also fallen, right?
Exactly. So I think the win-win project is to have a stable price between 70 to 80 per barrel and let the money go to the revenue of the oil producing so they can make demand stable, and by this creating demand for the commodity
the world,
producing. Yeah. So this is the win-win. But if we put oil less than 40 or 50, then it will impact negatively on demand, and this of course like Brazil, Argentina,
everybody's
India.
Getting affected. Is Africa also getting affected as a
yes,
continent?
Africa will be affected, but we have countries like Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, which produce Libya. Now this will be because the oil is making in the GDP and the cash. So we hope this will be stabilized. The other area, the war in the Middle East now, and this problem of the state, the terrorism, and unfortunately, I think India, as a country which is pivot in this region, should try to help these countries like our brothers in Iraq and Syria and Yemen, because what happened? These people who are non-state combatants, and they have arms which are very advanced. When they take oil refineries and take this oil and send it to the market, is this oil legitimately sold? Why we say when DRC...
So you're saying that we need some stability
this is
in this
blood
region.
oil.
Yeah.
This is blood oil. So the international community should know the source of this. Now in banking we say know your customer. Why in oil not knowing your customer? You take the oil stolen.
So generally you're saying that there should be stability in this Middle East region, and the oil business should be more transparent and above board.
Exactly. Like what we have in Diamond, we have this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think, Excellency, thank you very much for the Rajya Sabha.
Thank you very much for talking to us, Dr. Hassan Talib.
All the best. Thank you very much.
So that's all we have in this edition of the special edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks for watching.